Jesper, what a difference it makes when the shots get through and the finishing comes through. Your thoughts on the match and 5 goals tonight, a lot of shots getting past the goalkeeper.
Yes, we had the same amount of shots this game that we had the last. This time we hit the targets 10 times instead of 1, which is a good start. And then you give yourself better opportunities to score goals, obviously. It was great. We came out with a lot of force, and we came out, wanting to make sure that we didn't waste time. And I think that we looked good and fresh from the start. Of course, Dallas was also threatening the other way in a couple of counter moments. But I think in general that we, it's also a big thing. Getting ahead in the game and having that, lead to rely on, and I think in general we played a very good game in many ways. A couple of things that of course we need to look at, but apart from that, I was quite satisfied. Yeah.
There's not a lot of players that can miss 3 games, step back into the lineup, and have a first half brace. What sets Brian White apart from other strikers in this league where he can do that?
Yeah, he can also do it because he's chosen, right? So that's also a thing. But of course, he's a good striker, and he's also chosen because of these qualities. So I think that's definitely Brian. We've talked about him many times here, and of course he's a great player for us. He's been out. He was tested during the week and looked very good, and then he had the feeling that he was ready to go, and I would also rather play him from the start, getting him a good lead in. Rani Lumi had been good the last couple of games, but also it's been a packed program, so it was great that Brian could step up, and I think that he played very well and blended in very well with the guys, and you couldn't see that he'd been out for a while here.
Do you have an update on Ralph? Because he took a bit of a tackle in the first half, and then he was substituted.
Yeah, I don't have any update. We don't know yet. I think he twisted his ankle, but we have to see how it is. And of course, he's been very unfortunate as of late and been in and out of the team and having some setbacks, injury setbacks. But hopefully, it will not be that serious. But we have to see.
Jesper, I don't know if it was the first time, but it feels the first time for a long time, if it wasn't the first, that front 4 together we've seen on the pitch, and we saw how electric that they can be. Just your thoughts on their link-up play tonight, the fast moving, the passing, and the finishing, of course. Is this what you would look at, do you think, as your strongest front 4?
I don't care one bit about that. I only care about if the players play well together and if we're in great shape, and I think that they look good together, the players we played on the pitch today, and that's the most important thing for me. We have a lot of good players, and they will competing for spots, and sometimes you have an idea about how the team you're up against, how you want to approach that team, and sometimes you have an idea about you have another idea, and that's the most important thing for me. The most important for us as a team is that everybody knows that they have to play at a high level every time, and that they will support each other, and that they know what to do, right? So that's more important for me than what is our potential best lineup. I don't know. We have to figure that out, and it also changes.
I think a player, I don't know if you could say unsung, because people do appreciate how important he is to the team, but Eddie Ocampo took a team-leading assist, got a sublime header for the goal today. Can you speak a little bit about just how important he is to the team, not just defensively, but with these attacks?
He's been a constant for us the whole season. He has had a very good season. There are some things that we still would like to get more of from him. But in general, for a player who has been playing, basically his second season for us, and did not even start last season for us to begin with, but came in and did very well. I think he's been stepping his game up even more from last season, and I think that today also a couple of things extraordinary came into play, and it was a special game for him with the goal and the assist. But I think we also played him the right way, and there was openings behind them, and he's always a willing runner, and I think that Eddie is a good player, and he is in a great development, and hopefully he can continue. There's stuff, as I said, that we will still like more of, but today was definitely a good game for him.
Jesper, you played a very strong lineup, and there was a sense of determination to go out and get a result tonight. Was what had happened on Wednesday a factor in the players' minds to really go and get something this evening?
I don't know. I think that in general we come out strong when we play. It's of course you're always affected of what has happened before. Normally it's easier when you won the last game because your confidence is even higher and bigger and better. But I think we are not that affected of a couple of results that has not gone our way. Also margins have not always gone our way, but today it did. There was some situations where we would definitely have complained about some penalty situations. I would understand if they did. But last game we thought we scored a goal and it was called back, and that's sometimes determining factors for a result. Normally it's close games, and but today I think that we played with great force and we played with urgency from beginning of the game and played forward and scored early and it looked good the whole way. So I was happy with that. How much it was affected by what happened last week? Not last week, 3 days ago, I don't know. But I just think that we play well the way we should.
Can you speak to Brian White's ability to hold up the ball, bring other players into play today? I thought that it was the best of that aspect of his game that I've seen this season. What did you think in terms of it allowing the players to come to play?
It's important, of course, that sometimes we need our striker to win time for the rest of team to get up, to get close. We would like to play close to each other. I think that was very good from Brian in this game, and definitely he's a player. Even though that he has a lot of experience, and even though that he's played for many years, he still has to find ways to add to his overall skill set, and I think that he's doing that. Of course, it helps when you're fit and you can train as well. But today I think that I was quite happy with that part of his game as well. And as I said, you couldn't see that he'd been out for 3 days, 3 games. He looked like if he had played recently, right? So that was great to see.
Jesper, can you talk about the confidence your players were playing with tonight? I think we saw a few moments where just kind of stunning moments in the game, whether it was Emanuel Sabi's little back heel near the corner flag, or some even Brian's first goal of the night. I think that the confidence they're showing right now is above and beyond. And what does that do for this group?
No, it's much easier to play freely when you're ahead, when you're winning in the game. It's way easier, and you don't feel the pressure from the clock running down. I think that's always when you want to play offensive and attacking football minded, then it's way easier when you're in front in the game and playing on the front foot. And today they look to be gaining a lot more freedom from being in front of the game and scoring a couple of goals, and of course that's always great. So I hope that that's something that we can carry on. Every game is different, so it's going to be a different thing next time. But I think the team in general is confident. I think, when we've looked at the games, we have been playing well. It's not been easy for us scoring, but today we hit a couple, and that was great. And we of course have to carry that confidence into the next games as well.
Jesper, can you talk a little bit more about how you guys shut down Dallas and just holding into only just one shot on target today?
I think there was a couple of situations where we were a little bit too late in the pressure, and they came out of it, and the pitch looked very open in the first half, especially in the first 25 minutes. But after that, I think we we got them closed down. Sava was a threat in the backspace against us in the beginning, and they hit him a couple of times where we had to run backwards. But apart from that, I think that we had better connection later on in the first half, and in the second half, I think we were tighter and shut down the players. Kamungo came in and did a couple of things, but I think that we had a good eye on closing down his left foot and Musa as well. So on his favorite opportunity moments. So I think that we did in general pretty well in that regard. And you know, it's been tough on our defenders because if they made a mistake, we have not been able to score at the other end. And honestly, it's not always that easy. You know, so I think it was great for everybody that we got the clean sheet today.
And just wondering, like, the impact of Emanuel Sabi having him fully healthy, and just how do you see his progression? Because he was away for quite a bit before.
Yeah, I think he's coming along pretty well. I think that now you can see that he has more power in his actions, which is very good. You know, when you're out, that's some of the things that you miss. The power in your actions, and I think that Emanuel Sabi is a player who lives from his explosiveness and his explosive power actions, and I think that you can see now he's able to take more of them on a regular basis. So I think that's definitely nice to see, and of course we know Sabi to be a guy who attacks the box in the second line or maybe also in the first line, and he's very good at that. So he's a player who gets to finish in moments almost every time.
Jesper, it feels like physically we saw, you know, some of the Ryan Gauld looks back to form in terms of his knee and his body. Just how important is it? Because it felt like you covered a lot of ground tonight, especially in terms of winning those second balls and offering support to Brian up front.
I think, Ryan played his first 90 minutes in Monterey, and we could see down there it was tough conditions. That it's been a while. But it helped him. Then he started out against Seattle, but you could see when he came on the pitch that the 90 minutes in Monterey really, it looked to have benefited him. And then I think he played well against Houston, 90 minutes. And then today, I was actually a little bit, you know, not scared, but you know, a little bit nervous about the long minutes. But he felt good, and I think that he's looked good for a while now, and now he can also get back to these explosive actions. As I said, I think that he looked very good and blended in well. There was open spaces. He was very good to taking advantage of getting over the middle, also from the right side, and combining with the other guys. And I think that he looked good. I also have to say that Oliver and Andres played extremely well in the midfield, and played with the power and the repressure and also the aggression that we need when we play.
Jesper, you have a very rare week where you don't have a midweek game coming up.
Yeah.
Do you plan on using this 7 days that you have to work on anything specifically, especially knowing that after this you are back to midweek games up until I think the 19th or 20th of September?
Maybe we can arrange friendly, right? No, I don't know. We take some days off here now, and the players deserve it. There's not been much time off, and it's also more for the mental break. I think everybody needs a couple of days off, and that's great. Maybe also, you know, coaches and staff. So that's a good thing. We like playing a lot of games. We like playing a tough schedule because, you know, players, they like to train, but more so they like to be playing the games. It can be tough, but it's the same for everybody, and I think we're ready enough for it. We have to be. We're a team where we also would like to be better, and we get better by getting tested in all the games we can. Of course, we need to be on the training ground as well, but I think in general that you know, we cannot complain that we are playing a lot of games, because it also means that we are doing well in some of the competitions that we are a part of. So it's not a bad thing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.